Hi guys, it's me, ChazRHD, and welcome today to the qualifying watch-along for the 2021 Spanish Grand Prix weekend. Of course, the race is tomorrow. We've had the practice sessions, we've had all the build-up, and now we have just half an hour to go until the session gets underway in Barcelona in the Circuit De Catalunya track. A very sunny day it is, thankfully, in Barcelona. Hopefully you guys are doing well no matter what part of the world you're in or what time it is in your part of the world. Hopefully you are having as best a Saturday as you can, and hopefully with me you'll be watching along the session for qualifying again for the Spanish Grand Prix. If you can't watch the session though and you want to listen to this to keep up to date, then don't worry, I will keep you absolutely bang up to date with absolutely everything that is going on in the session. So yeah, don't forget, again, if you can't watch the session, then just listen along and then you can again keep bang up to date, kind of like a radio show. Yeah, hopefully you guys are doing well, and we'll get into a bit of the build up here ahead of qualifying. Now, if you missed my practice 3 stream, which took place an hour and a half or a couple hours ago, which was an interesting session, practice 3. Certain parts of the grid look kind of familiar to what I thought it would be, but with who went P1 at the very end of the session, I think we're definitely in, despite Mercedes having, I still think, the tad quicker car. Still think we are in for a very interesting session, because Max Verstappen ended up P1 on a 1 minute 17.8 from Lewis Hamilton second, Charles Leclerc third, Carlos Sainz fourth, and then Bottas fifth, and then the rest of the top 10, Norris, Gasly, Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Perez. Perez very low down. I'm sure Perez, though, can improve. He didn't really go for a proper soft tyre run towards the end of the session, so I think he can do definitely better than that. And then the rest of the order: Alonso, Tsunoda, Ocon, Stroll, Russell, Giovinazzi, Vettel, Latifi, Schumacher, and Mazepin. That is your order from practice 3, and by the looks of it, yeah, there's certain parts of the grid look about what I thought it would be, but it is still very close, and especially in the midfield. I mean, Ferrari, McLaren, AlphaTauri still looking pretty close on lap time. But let's now get into the teams and how I think they are going to do. So first off, Mercedes. I still think Mercedes, despite not topping practice 3, I still think Mercedes have the quicker car. I think they proved that yesterday. And if you go back and watch practice 3, Lewis Hamilton did not go out for a final soft tyre run. So I think he could have definitely improved on his lap time of a 1:18, I think 0 it was. So he definitely could have improved. So without doubt, Mercedes do have more speed, or they could have showed more speed definitely in practice 3. And I do think they have the tad quicker car. Aerodynamically, it does look better than the Red Bull. Not massively, still close, but it does look better. And I do expect, as long as both drivers are on it, I do expect at least a Mercedes pole position today. Wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if it was a front row lockout, to be honest, because, I mean, considering how quick they were in Portugal and the way they've looked so far here in Spain, again, it wouldn't really be that big of a surprise, would it? And, I mean, we'll get into Red Bull basically now. And with Max Verstappen, yeah, topping the final session, final practice session, that's great and all, but look what happened in Portugal. He topped practice 3 there, and then it ended up being a Mercedes front row. And I know Verstappen had the pace for pole position, but he didn't get it because he made too many mistakes. So just because Verstappen topped practice 3, that does not necessarily mean he will end up getting pole position. He does have the pace for pole. He is within reach of it. I just don't think he will get it because I still think the Mercedes is quicker around this circuit in qualifying, and I think especially will be so in the race. So, I mean, if Verstappen is going to win this weekend, he does have to get pole position, basically. If he starts second, I mean, his chances of getting victory are still very good, because if he gets a very good start compared to whoever is on pole, then, you know, if he gets into the lead then it's going to be very, very hard for anyone to beat him. But really, if Verstappen doesn't get pole, and especially if Verstappen is not on the front row, then I don't see Max Verstappen winning at all the Grand Prix on Sunday, because he'll need to pull off either one of the best drives of his entire career, or it'll need to be a bit of a miracle and a lot of luck as well as to him getting into a position where he wins the Grand Prix. So it really, if Max Verstappen is going to bounce back yet again to what Lewis Hamilton has done, just like he did at Imola, after, of course, Hamilton won in Bahrain, with Hamilton winning in Portugal, if Max is going to bounce back, then it's got to be today pole position for him. Could have got it in Portugal. Should have got it at Imola, but he didn't. And then, of course, in Bahrain, he did get it. Let's hope we get a mistake-free Max Verstappen. But as of late, that's not exactly a common sight, I'm afraid, for any Verstappen fans out there. So, I mean, we'll see. As long as we get a great battle for pole position, I don't really care who gets pole. Sergio Perez, hard to say where Sergio's going to be. He should be, in theory, 4th place. That's where he should be. I don't see him any higher because I don't think the Red Bull is quick enough for both drivers to be, in the top 3. I think it's definitely going to be 2 Mercedes in the top 3. Just don't know exactly where yet. I still think, Mercedes on pole most likely at the minute. But, for Sergio Perez, P4, that's got to be his aim. He might, though, be under a bit of threat from the Ferraris, because the 2 Ferraris are looking very quick, and if Ferrari for the first time this season execute a good qualifying with both cars and get the positions they deserve and they should get, then in theory Ferrari should be at worst 5th and 6th, but they might be able, because of how close they look to the front, they might be able to get 4th and 5th if Sergio Perez is not quite on it. And we'll get to Ferrari in a moment, but Ferrari looking very quick, and Perez hopefully can improve. He probably will improve in the session. I think we'll probably see the indication of the improvement probably by the end of Q1. Anyway, let's get into now the front of the midfield pack. McLaren first up. In practice 3, McLaren looked a lot stronger than they did in Friday practice, and looked a lot stronger than I expected coming to the weekend anyway. So, great performance. What was it? P6 and P8, I believe, for the McLaren team in practice 3. And if they can get that in qualifying, then that would be an amazing result for them. Because, again, this is not a track that they should really be going that well at. More so power-dominant tracks is where you're going to see McLaren really shining. And obviously, this is a high aero circuit. That's why I think Ferrari are so good this weekend, because aerodynamics definitely their strongest point with their car in 2021. So, McLaren, if they can, say, be the next quickest team after Ferrari, that would be a superb job. Lando Norris, without doubt, is going to be the front-running McLaren driver. Hopefully, Daniel Ricciardo as well can get into the top 10. And in fact, I'm going to predict now, I think both McLarens will get into the top 10. I don't think it'll be P6 and P8 on the grid, though. I think it's probably going to be, say, 8th and 10th on the grid, which is still good. Again, considering what I thought they were going to be doing this weekend, because I thought Alpine would be quicker than them this weekend. But it looks as though, even though Alpine do look as though they have still a good car for the Grand Prix this weekend, from practice 3 didn't look that great. So I think 8th and 10th, honestly, for McLaren is what's going to happen for them today. And if they do get that, then they've got to be happy with that going into the race, where they should be a bit stronger there as well. And then let's go on to Ferrari now. So Ferrari, they've been super quick all weekend. We knew this was going to happen because Ferrari aerodynamically are very strong. If you look at the data from the Grand Prix so far, and the certain sectors of track from the Bahrain track, the Imola circuit, and Portimao, if you look at the sectors where it's most aerodynamically efficient around those circuits, Ferrari have been basically level with whoever the second best team at the very top has been. Of course, and at Mercedes and Red Bull. Sometimes, I think Imola, they were actually just as quick as Mercedes, if not a tad quicker than Mercedes in the middle sector at Imola, which is, again, is the most aerodynamically efficient. So it's not a surprise Ferrari are so quick. We were expecting this. I am really looking forward, though, to see what they can do in Monaco, because I think in Monaco we could see possibly a Ferrari pole position. More into that. We'll get more into that in Monaco in a couple of weeks. But yeah, I think definitely this session coming up, if they don't get 5th and 6th, they're going to be very disappointed. That it needs to be 5th and 6th, like I said a minute ago. It needs to be P5 and P6 at the absolute worst. They clearly have the best midfield car. And really, in Portugal, they had the best midfield car there. But again, they just failed to execute properly. So, this weekend, they've got to do so, because if they qualify 5th and 6th, then if they can even get both cars into the top 10 on the medium compound tyre, which would be very impressive, it would massively help their race, because without doubt, Ferrari still have quite poor tyre wear compared to their midfield rivals. So if they can get into the top 10 shootout and start the race on the medium compound tyre, that would help them massively going into the race. So, yeah, look out for Ferrari. If there is a surprise to be caused, it will be from this team, without doubt. So, yeah, look out for them, because I think definitely with Charles Leclerc, with how great he's driving at the minute and how fast he is over a single lap in this Ferrari, you can't take your eyes off of him. And as well, of course, Carlos Sainz, don't take your eyes off of him. Home race, and if you look at his qualifying performances at this Grand Prix, since he started racing in Formula 1, it's been really good. He was obviously in his debut here at the Spanish Grand Prix, was P5 in a Toro Rosso. He was in the top 10 in 2016, in 2017 I think he was, in 2018 he was for Renault, 2019 I think he was P11, and then last year he was, I think, P7. So definitely look out for Carlos Sainz, because normally in qualifying does tend to be very strong, but I think Charles Leclerc is the one to look out for in terms of surprising that front four on the grid. Now let's get into the lower part of the midfield. Aston Martin look about where I thought they would be. They don't look like serious top 10 contenders, if I'm going to be honest. I think the best they can hope for is, around P12, P13. I just don't think they have enough of a car compared to McLaren, Ferrari, and then probably AlphaTauri and Alpine to get ahead of them. I just don't see it. I think the upgrades, though, for them have worked slightly. I don't think they've worked massively, which will be a bit of a disappointment, but Aston Martin are still in there, if you know what I mean. They're still in play. And I think they can still finish in the points on Sunday if they were to, say, qualify 12th, 13th on the grid. They're still, if they can start from there for the race, that's still a good position to start from if they're going to finish in the points. So it wouldn't be a disaster, quite frankly, if they qualified there with both cars. But yeah, if you're an Aston Martin fan, don't expect too much. I mean, I said that for Portugal, and Sebastian Vettel got into the top 10, which was, of course, amazing. But yeah, just to be sure, if you're an Aston Martin fan, again, like Portugal, don't expect too much. Because if you do get into the top 10, great, but don't be expecting that, because I don't think Aston Martin around this circuit have a car that can certainly get in there. So, yeah, again, don't be expecting much. But if I'm going to be proven wrong, then we'll see in qualifying in about 15 minutes' time. AlphaTauri next up. AlphaTauri actually look a bit quicker. Not massively quicker, but a bit quicker than I thought they would. I thought they'd struggle, to be honest, to get both cars, or even one car, into the top 10 on a consistent basis this weekend. But Pierre Gasly has been getting in the top 10 consistently. So, yeah, I think Gasly probably will get in the top 10. Don't know where he'll finish, though. He could produce an amazing performance to get up to 7th or 6th. He could be in 9th or 10th. It's hard to say. I think he will, though, get into the top 10 because he is so well suited to that car and so at one with the AlphaTauri, which he has been, he was last season, he has been this season. It's very hard to sit here and predict that AlphaTauri are going to be, not getting any cars into the top 10, especially with how Pierre Gasly is performing. So, yeah, I think Gasly will get in the top 10. Yuki Tsunoda, though, I think will struggle, to be honest. I think Yuki Tsunoda will struggle to get in there because even though his pace looks better here than it did in Portugal, I just don't think he's quite like Gasly at one with his machine as of yet. So yeah, I think one car into the top 10 is what it's looking like. Would be great though if they could get both cars in there. For Alpine, I mean, yesterday was great for them, 4th and 5th. I still think Alpine are going to be good today because I think their performance in the slower speed corners, which is probably their strongest point, I mean, in the final sector, that will be a very important factor in deciding where they qualify. I still think they'll be strong. Not sure it'll be quite as strong as they were hoping, but they should get at least one car into the top 10. Don't know what car that'll be, though. Really, out of the midfield drivers, I'd say the drivers getting to the top 10 after the front obvious 4 would have to be Leclerc, Sainz, Norris, Ricciardo, Gasly, and then after that, I mean, you'd have to say probably Esteban Ocon because of how Fernando Alonso has been so far this season in qualifying. Bahrain, of course, was good. So far this weekend, he's actually been pretty good, but Ocon has still looked probably the better of the two. So, yeah, I'd have to lean towards Esteban Ocon in terms of a top 10 position. I don't know, though, again, where Ocon will end up. I'm going to say probably 7th, to be honest, is where Ocon will probably end up, say, ahead of the two McLarens. But I don't, judging from practice 3 and how it all looks going into qualifying, I don't think it'll be a double Q3 appearance for Alpine. I think what you're going to have is probably an Alpine in, say, P11, and then another of the Alpines in 7th or 8th place. I think that's most likely what's going to happen. But hopefully this man on screen, another home driver, Fernando Alonso, who of course has won this race twice before and always been very good here. I'm hoping he can, today, get back to the Fernando Alonso of kind of what we had in Bahrain, which was, ahead of Ocon and doing the best he could. Hopefully we get that today in qualifying. Alfa Romeo, I'll be honest, Alfa Romeo, I mean, Raikkonen was in the top 10, but I don't think Raikkonen will be doing that in qualifying because, quite frankly, his qualifying performance in the last couple of years has been poor. And I think the furthest forward driver is going to be Antonio Giovinazzi. So, I mean, both cars into Q2 would probably be a good result. I just don't see them getting anywhere near the top 10, though. I just don't see it. I don't see how they're anywhere near teams like Ferrari, McLaren, Alpine. I just don't see it at all. So, yeah, I think Alfa Romeo, a good result, again, would be both cars into Q2 and then go from there. I said in my preview, anyway, that I don't think Alfa Romeo will score points this weekend because they'll probably start too far away from the top 10 to get close enough in the race because, of course, it is very hard to overtake here. So, yeah, Alfa Romeo, I'm not really expecting anything much today, if I'm going to be honest. And Williams, same really. I mean, Russell, he could definitely, get into the into Q2. We have seen him, of course, doing it before. I just don't see, though, if he does get into Q2, I don't see him ending up like he did in Portugal, P11 or Imola where he was P12. I don't see that at all because the Williams is just not really quick around a track like this. And again, I think you're going to have to wait in terms of when the Williams car is competitive overall with both drivers, like it was at Imola. I think you'd have to wait probably till Baku to get a much stronger team performance. I do think in Monaco, Russell, because of how good of a driver he is, I wouldn't be surprised if Russell caused a massive surprise, because at Monaco, that is really a driver's circuit, and the drivers do make a massive difference around a track like Monaco. But this weekend, I don't really see what Williams are going to be able to do, to be honest. But we have, about 10 minutes or just under 10 minutes to go now until qualifying gets underway in Barcelona. So I'll just move on to these pictures quick. So guys, in the chat for the final 8-9 minutes, let me know, who do you think will get pole position, qualify second, qualify third, fourth and fifth? And if you want to do the top 10, you can, but just give me what your top 5 will be for qualifying today. For me, I'm going to go Hamilton on pole, Verstappen second, Bottas third, Perez fourth, and then Charles Leclerc in fifth place. I think that's the most likely top 5 we're going to have. And then after that, I'd say the rest of the top 10, if I was to predict that, I'd probably go Sainz in 6th, Ocon 7th, Norris 8th, Gasly 9th, Ricciardo 10th. I think that's what my top 10 would be. But just, if you can, give me your top 5 in the live chat right now, and I'll make sure to read as many out as I can before qualifying gets underway. Just want to let you guys know, though, that I will be doing a race preview later on tonight at 6 p.m. UK time, which is in about 4 hours from now. So don't forget to come around to that. And as well, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, because I will be doing a race watch-along at the same time tomorrow, of course, with Nib for the 2021 Spanish Grand Prix. So don't forget to subscribe for that. And also, we're going to be doing watch-alongs for every qualifying and race for the rest of the season. So again, don't forget to subscribe. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. Or go to my channel page and do it there. And hit the notifications bell as well. And don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. But let me just quickly mute my microphone, because you might have heard in practice 3 I had a bit of a cold. Still got a bit of a cold, but not as bad as it was. So let me just quickly wipe my nose quick, and I'll be back in literally a few seconds. Right, there you go. And let me just read the chat to see what you guys have to say. Also, we've got a very nice super chat there from Jim Smith. Thank you very much for £10, who says, great content, sir. Thank you very much for that. I really, really appreciate it. Right, let's read out some predictions. So, Mario says Hamilton for pole, Verstappen second, Bottas third. Henry O'Boyle says Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Leclerc, Perez, Sainz, Norris, Ocon, Gasly, Vettel. McLaren One Race says Hamilton, Verstappen, Norris, Bottas, Perez. If Norris was to get in the top 3, then just wow. Just wow. Rooksford, of course, one of our mods, he thinks it'll be Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Bottas / Norris. Dylan Forrestal, I think it is, says Lewis, Max, Perez, Leclerc, Bottas, Norris, Sainz, Fernando Alonso, Ocon, Ricciardo. Ryan Austin says Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Bottas, Perez. TJ Wittenbach says Max for pole. I'm going to say Wookie for your name. I'm going to read out his comment quick. He says Hamilton, he thinks will get pole. Verstappen second, Bottas third, Leclerc fourth, Perez fifth. Jim Smith says Max for pole from Lewis second, Leclerc third, and Bottas fourth. Enos Reed says Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc. KG, Verstappen, Hamilton, Leclerc. Gecko, Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton. Seems a lot of you are going for Hamilton or Verstappen 1 or 2. And to me, it seems as though Hamilton is edging it out in the predictions at the minute. Unitary Music, I think it is, says Verstappen, he thinks he'll get pole. From Lewis second, then Perez, Bottas, and Lando fifth. Scratch Cat says Max, Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc, Norris, Sainz, Gasly, Ricardo, Ocon. Aline, great to see you, says Hamilton, Perez, Verstappen. Or no, she says Hamilton, Bottas, and Perez, Verstappen. Hello to Nib, by the way, in the chat. Great to see you. And yeah, Quinton says Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, Bottas, Leclerc. Hendrick says Mazepin, Grosjean, Latifi for his top three. Wookie also says, going to be bold and say pole time will be a 16.9. Hamilton on pole ahead of Verstappen by 1,000th of a second. That would be real tasty stuff, to be honest, if we had that. You know, those two so close to each other. That would just be amazing. Right, let me just find some couple more comments here. Marcel Gaming says Verstappen, Perez, Hamilton. Tanashi says Bottas, Verstappen, Hamilton. Asmo makes actually a great point. That is a great point. By the way, Michael Arvin says Max, Hamilton, Sainz, Bottas, Leclerc, Norris, Perez. Yeah, makes a great point, does Asmo. Is that Lewis Hamilton is going for today his 100th pole position in Formula One. So Hamilton's motivation will be very strong here, especially after Portugal, where he really should have been on pole, but missed out because of a real, by his standards, a poor first run in Q3 last week. So Hamilton going for the 100th pole. Also, I believe he's going for his 6th pole position in Spain. Mercedes also, I mean, it's been scrolling along the bottom ticker during the stream so far, but Mercedes also are going for yet another pole position. They've had pole position here in Spain every year since 2013. The last time they weren't on pole was 2012 when it was Pastor Maldonado on pole that day. And then, yeah, the last, Red Bull pole position was 2011 with Mark Webber. And the last Honda-powered pole position here at this track in this country as well was Gerhard Berger. That was the last Honda-powered pole position in 1991, which was actually the first time we raced around here, because, of course, the track was built for the 92 Barcelona Olympics, and has been kept ever since, and it's been very useful for the teams ever since, of course, for testing, development, and all of that. And obviously, it's not a good track for overtaking, we know that, but in terms of seeing where you are aerodynamically wise, it is a great track to see how good your car is grip-wise. It's probably the best track we have for that. As just to let you guys know as well, we have the same types of tyre compounds that we had in Portugal, the 3 hardest compounds of tyre. As the session is delayed by 10 minutes. Don't know why, but the session has been delayed by 10 minutes. I'm hoping they show in a minute why, and if anyone can find out why in the chat, that'd be great. But I think what I'll do is I will hide that timer and just reset it in a moment, as we'll be underway shortly. And yeah, I don't quite know as of yet why there is a 10-minute delay. Don't think there was any session in between practice 3 and qualifying, so I don't know why there is a 10-minute delay, but there is, just to let you guys know. Nib says they're fixing a barrier. Right. Don't know what barrier that is. If you can, we're now seeing it's that turn 9, I think, as Michael Massey, I think, now getting into the safety car to get out of there now. But I think it's turn 9 barrier that they're trying to fix there. So I'll just sync up the timer again, and we now have there you go. 11 minutes to go until qualifying gets underway. So sorry about that, guys, but there's nothing that we can control. Just seeing now, the marshals are replacing the barriers at turn 9. They're adding, I think, further padding. And also, I think one of the barriers there was a bit wonky or out of shape for the FIA's liking. So, yeah, we'll be underway in about 10 minutes' time. Let me read out some comments, though, in the chat. But in the build-up to qualifying. So, if you've not got your predictions in as of yet, then make sure to put them in the chat, and I'll make sure to read them out. Let me just go back and see if I missed any. Say Regara, great to see you, says Verstappen. Bottas, Perez, Jessica Joseph says Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen. Let me see if there's any other comments here. Joseph says, I hope that Seb gets into Q3. I think the best thing I've seen, or maybe not the best thing, but a good thing that I've seen at the minute is that Sebastian Vettel has definitely clawed back the performance that he lost in the first couple of races because he was still getting used to the car and the team. Portugal was a pretty good weekend considering how the car was performing. Top 10 in qualifying, and then in the race did beat Lance Stroll in the battle for 13th and 14th place, which is really the best Aston Martin we're going to do in that Grand Prix. So really, I think for the next couple races, at least in qualifying, his aim, Sebastian, has got to be just to be ahead of Stroll, because if he does out-qualify Stroll, he will still be in play for a decent result later on. Let me find some other comments here. Seyregar asks, who is better, in your opinion, Charles Leclerc or Carlos Sainz? I'd have to say Charles Leclerc, but I think Carlos Sainz is a lot better than people give him credit for, put it that way. I think Carlos Sainz... I do think Carlos Sainz can be a world champion, without doubt. He's shown to me the talent for that. Will he win a championship? Probably not, unfortunately. Even though I'd like to see it, probably not. But he does, if he does get in the car that is good enough, and with a team that's good enough, there's no doubt he can win one. No doubt at all. Charles Leclerc, though, I would say is definitely, after Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton, the most likely to win a championship again after those two drivers ahead of him. Leclerc, I'd have to give the edge to him because really his qualifying speed is just out of this world, and again, his race performances are just that tad better. Carlos Sainz has had some good performances this season, but they've not been as outstanding, I would say, as Charles Leclerc. By the way, thank you for the donation from Michael Arvin for $4.99, who says, thanks for me, Voodoo, that you do so well. Thank you very much for that. Scratch Cat says, Perez will struggle. Let me find some others here. Nick Dubbin says, Kimi Q3, Max Pole. Astro Stevo, I don't think I read your predictions out, so sorry about that, but let me just read them out now. So he says Hamilton, Bottas, Perez, Verstappen, Ricciardo, Norris, Sainz, Leclerc, Alonso, Ocon. I think that's your top 10. Let me find some other comments here. Wookie says, I think Seb has the ability, but he's going to struggle with Stroll's dad owning the team. I don't think necessarily that's true. The reason I don't think so is because I think Vettel is senior and successful enough in his career to overcome any foul play, if you know what I mean, any favoritism. If it was, say, a Nico Hulkenberg in that team, then yeah, I can understand that point. Astro Steve also saying Hamilton will stay, Bottas will go. Expect Russell to replace Bottas next year. Yeah, if Hamilton stays, I could honestly see Bottas staying as well, I'm afraid, because I don't really see what the point is changing up the lineup when it's, proven to be successful. Crystal Racing asks, who is better, Ocon or Gasly? I'd have to say Gasly. I will say, though, Ocon in the last few races of 2020 and the first, 3 so far this season, I've seen good signs from him, which is good. Because I thought after the way he started 2020, I thought, even though I knew he was going to improve as the season went on because he was still getting kind of used to, again, racing in Formula 1 after the year out he had in 2019, I just thought he would end up really just being a lower-placed midfield driver and wouldn't really be able to compete. But the way he ended last season, especially with the podium in the Circuit Grand Prix, and, the way he started this season, out-qualifying Alonso at Imola, getting to the top 10, and then out-racing Alonso at Imola, getting 9th place, and then Portugal, he was one of the drivers of the weekend. Probably not the best driver, but probably in the top 3, I would say. Qualifying 6th and finishing 7th, and again, beating teammate Alonso. Ocon's definitely improved a bit. For sure, and it's good to see because I wanted to see this season really what Esteban Ocon was made of. I still think Alonso will beat him at the end of the season. I still think he'll be ahead of him. But if Ocon, if he does get beaten, can be close to Alonso in terms of the qualifying stats and race stats, then that's easily good enough. Because, look at the drivers Alonso's been teammate with and who, Alonso's beaten. You got Jarno Trulli, Fisichella, Hamilton, of course, beat him, even though they were level on points. Hamilton did beat him because I think he had more race wins that season, I believe. Piquet Jr. was mostly poor. Grosjean wasn't ready. And then you got Felipe Massa, who was still pretty good, I thought. When he was at Ferrari. At that time, I think the Ferrari car was really just very poor. I think that's why Massa was not as good as he was previously. And then, Jenson Button, Kimi Räikkönen. So, if he can be... Let's say Alonso does beat Ocon. If Alonso beats Ocon and Ocon loses out to Alonso by a few points and Ocon finishes ahead in the qualifying stakes... or let's say Alonso beats him in the qualifying stakes, but it's really close, then you've got to say that Ocon's had a very good season because, again, look at the teammates Alonso's had. Some of the names I mentioned there, Massa, Räikkönen, Button, Fisichella, Trulli. Those weren't and aren't, because obviously Räikkönen is still on the grid, bad drivers at all. So, yeah, I think... that should be looked upon as a very good season. And at the minute, he's had a great season. You cannot doubt that whatsoever. And has been leading the charge from Alpine so far this season. As we have just over 2 minutes to go until qualifying gets underway. If you're just joining us and you're wondering why it's not started, it's because there was a delay to fix the barrier. So that's why we are waiting currently an extra couple minutes to get underway. But session will be getting underway very soon. So don't forget to stick around, tune in, and get ready for what is going to be another exciting session. Hopefully not as anticlimactic as the Portuguese Grand Prix. Current track conditions, just to let you guys know, you got 25 degrees Celsius on track, 77 Fahrenheit, and the wind speed is 8.6 kilometers an hour, which is... noticeable. Well, it's nowhere near as bad as it was in Portugal. In Portugal, it was at least 10 kilometers an hour quicker, I think, the wind speed. So, not as bad, and it shouldn't play as big of an effect as it did in Portugal. So, yeah. As we've got, just over a minute to go. So, I think what I'm going to do is get my graphics ready and hide some of this stuff. So, and let me just get it up. So, in case you didn't watch earlier, my practice stream, I do now have a new, what would you call it? A new and much improved system for doing the running order. So if I just get it up there, so you can see here, this is the running order on the left-hand side of the screen from practice 3. But from now on, instead of having to type it in, because of a very wonderful man called Jason, who's helped design this system to help improve the speed of doing it, now I just have to click on a person's name, and you can see there, goes up and down, as you can see there with Hamilton and Leclerc. So it's a lot quicker now than it was before. So again, thank you, and big shout out to Jason for helping with that, and I'm sure he'd appreciate it as well. Before in the chat, thanked him for his great work. As the session, I think, session is now underway, as the first cars on track are a Williams and 2 Alfa Romeos. I'll just get the timing synced up soon. Of course, Q1 is 18 minutes long, and yeah, I'll sync up the timer in just a moment, as the cars are now on the circuit. And once the times start getting set, instead of having to wait until every driver sets their first time, I'll be able to update it as soon as possible. The running order. So, and I'm sure, as you guys know, anyone below 16th will get knocked out get knocked out of Q1 and won't be able to progress any further. I should probably, though, have a, a dotted line there, shouldn't I? Let me see if I can just add one quickly, which would help. There you go. There's a dotted line for you at the top, and let me just bring it down. Let me see if it'll work, and I think that works. Let me just pull it across. And there you go. So below that dotted line, those are the drivers. And I've missed a syncing up point, so I'll do it in a minute. Still no time set on the board, though, so don't worry. Anyone below that dotted line, if you are new to qualifying in Formula 1, at the end of the session, Q1, if anyone's below that dotted line, they will not be able to progress any further. And they will be knocked out, and they will start the race in those positions as the first driver to set a time, or to start a time, I think, are the Williamses and the Haases. And there you go, 16 minutes to go. Now, in qualifying 1, and we're now on the TV broadcast looking at Mick Schumacher, who is currently through turn 3. And, well, Haas are not really going to start any higher than the back row of the grid. But at least Mick can just go out there and try and see what happens. Got to say, I thought he was pretty good in Portugal, in the race especially. Finishing ahead of Nicholas Latifi in the Williams, from the Haas car clearly nowhere near as good overall as the Williams car. As he now comes through turn 7 and turn 8. The Haas car on the rear end is so unstable. That's really, I mean, we joke all the time about him, Nikita Mazepin, but you got to say the rear end of the Haas car is very poor, very, very poor, and that's why they struggle so much. As Mick has done a purple first sector, purple second sector. Russell, though, I think no, Russell does not do a purple middle sector. Interestingly, as Mick Schumacher will come to the line in just a moment. Nicholas Latifi goes P1. Mick Schumacher goes up into second place. We'll just wait for Russell to come to the line, as Mazepin and Russell will come into the pits. So it is, at the minute, it is Nicholas Latifi in P1, as we've got Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas and Perez, interestingly, out very early on an outlap. Very early, I have to say, for those drivers. And Mick Schumacher, as I just move him up, Mick Schumacher is in second place at the moment. And then, of course, Mazepin third. Those, though, are the only lap times on the board at the moment. So Mazepin up to third. And yeah, Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Perez, Tsunoda, Stroll, Vettel, Raikkonen, and Giovinazzi are currently on the track. And Lewis Hamilton, interestingly, has gone out on the medium compound tyres as a Red Bull there is just overtaken. And now Sergio Perez, I think it's just ahead of him. I think the Red Bulls are on soft compound tyres, which is very interesting. The Red Bull are going different there. But we've got almost everyone on track, except for the two Williamses, the two Haases, the two McLarens, the two Alpines and Gasly. Sergio Perez will start his first run in Q1. Let's see if Perez does have good enough pace, as Hamilton also starts his first run in Q1. Perez into turn 1 and turn 2. Car looks fine. The Red Bull, definitely its strongest sector is going to be sector 1 because of how quick it is. The Red Bull, without doubt, quicker in the higher speed stuff. And Perez, quarter of a tenth up on Latifi through the first sector. Well, saying that, Hamilton on the medium compound tyre has done a stonking first sector already. Bottas, though, has gone even quicker, I think. Or no, Verstappen has. Verstappen, though, on the soft compound tyre. Of course, they're going to be massively quicker compared to Nicholas Latifi. As Perez through turn 9. There's a car ahead that he hopes will get out of the way, and it does. It was a Ferrari. Perez 8 tenths up on Nicholas Latifi. As he comes as Hamilton 1.2 seconds up on Latifi. So Hamilton about 3.5 to 4 tenths quicker than Perez on this lap. Verstappen doing a decent lap, but compared to Hamilton, it's not that good, considering Hamilton is on a harder compound of tyre, as Sergio Perez will come to the line, and Sergio Perez goes P1, of course, by 1.5 seconds. Lewis Hamilton comes to the line. He goes P1 by 3.5 tenths of a second. Very impressive time from Lewis Hamilton. Max Verstappen will come to the line and go P1, but only by 1.5 tenths, and he was on. And Bottas actually goes P1 on the medium compound tyre. Again, though, the Mercedes are on the harder compound tyre. The Red Bulls on the softer compound. So that's quite worrying, I would say, so far for the Red Bull team. So Bottas currently in P1 as Sebastian Vettel is on a lap. We'll see what he can do in just a moment. So Verstappen up to second. Then we've got Lewis Hamilton up to third. And then Sergio Perez is now up in fourth position as Sebastian Vettel goes sixth for Aston Martin, just behind, I think, his teammate, or no, ahead of his teammate, actually, just behind Yuki Tsunoda, who is in currently fifth place, as Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc are now in the final sector of their first flying runs. Carlos Sainz comes around the final corner. Where does he go? Third place, ahead of Lewis Hamilton. That's a good run there for Carlos Sainz. So, and we'll see where Leclerc goes. Leclerc goes up to P5. So, Sainz is up to third. And then Leclerc is now up in fifth place. Ahead of Perez sixth, and then Tsunoda in P7. And then Sebastian Vettel, if I can just update it, is in eighth place. There you go. Vettel up to eighth. And then Giovinazzi at the minute is in ninth spot. There you go. As Lando Norris did a purple first sector, only 1.5 tenths down on Valtteri Bottas. After the two sectors, which I know Bottas is on the medium, but that's still pretty good from Lando Norris, as Raikkonen is up in 10th position at the minute. as Stroll is in 11th, as Lando Norris will come to line. It's a great slipstream, but was held up, I think, by the Haas. I just looked away, so I didn't quite see if he was held up. But Norris goes into 8th position ahead of Sebastian Vettel. And then, Vettel 9th, Giovinazzi 10th, Raikkonen 11th, Stroll 12th, and then Latifi, Schumacher, and Mazepin. Let me just do that. There you go. The only drivers not to set a time: Gasly, Ricciardo, Alonso, Ocon, and Russell. As Pierre Gasly rounds the final corner on his first flying lap of the soft compound tyre. Should be a quick one, and it is. Purple final sector, and Gasly goes up to 3rd as Fernando Alonso comes to the line, goes P7, half a second down on Valtteri Bottas. Esteban Ocon comes to the line and goes 6th, a tad ahead of his teammate, as Daniel Ricciardo now goes up to 6th, and the last driver to set his run, we'll just wait for him to come through before we set up what the official order is. It will be George Russell to come to the line, and Russell goes P11. Good lap by the Brit. Yeah, let me just update the order quickly. And it is Gasly now up in 3rd position. There you go. And then we'll just wait. And oh my Jesus Christ, is that a lot of traffic? And this is a replay at the final chicane of cars cutting the chicane, diving out of the way. That is so messy. I don't really see how you can penalise anyone there, because there were so many of them just trying to avoid each other and try and do the best they can to, as Latifi, a bit of his undertray falls off on the exit of turn 9. Don't really see how you can punish anyone there again, because F1 really just looked like they were just trying to keep desperately out of the way the best they could, but were being hampered by just the way the track works, I guess. Yeah, it's Ricciardo. You've got up in 6th position. And then Esteban Ocon at the minute is in 7th place, ahead of Leclerc in 8th. And then Alonso currently 9th for the Alpine team. And then George Russell is in P11, I believe. So let me just update that. And there you go. So Russell up to P11. So 6 minutes to go, as Sergio Perez is actually in 4th place. Let me just update that quickly. So Perez up to 4th. So the order, with 5.5 minutes to go in Q1, it's Bottas from Verstappen, Gasly, Perez, Sainz, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Ocon, Leclerc, Alonso, Russell, Tsunoda, Norris, Vettel, Giovinazzi. But in the drop zone with 5.5 minutes to go, as Pierre Gasly, I think, is about to change the front wing. In the drop zone, needing desperately to get out, it is Raikkonen, Stroll, Mick Schumacher in 18th, doing a very great job to be ahead of Nicholas Latifi, who is 19th, and then in 20th is Nikita Mazepin. Another donation from Michael Arvin for $1.99, who says, shout out to Rook for time weather, you rock, Rook. He absolutely does. And he is a great moderator, really, really is. So deserves all the praise for what he does for the channel. As Latifi, just seeing a replay. So Latifi has broken a part of his undertray on the exit of turn 9, and Latifi will require a bit of a fix. But if he can't get back out in time, then he will start most likely in 19th place. And given the speed he's had this weekend, his chances of getting out of Q1 are pretty small, I have to say. As, everyone, I think, now in the pits. And Raikkonen, Stroll, Schumacher, Latifi, Mazepin in the drop zone. The drivers at risk, I'd have to say at the moment, it looks as though really the only drivers at risk, a serious risk, are Vettel and Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi is only into Q2 at the moment by 0.04 of a second. And Vettel does have about a 0.2 gap to Raikkonen. Actually, basically a 0.3 gap to Raikkonen. But because of track evolution, which is quite common here in Barcelona, he could still be at risk. And with his teammate in 17th, I mean, Aston Martin don't exactly have the speed, do they? Clearly, as it's been shown so far, to get out of the drop zone. But gotta say, the midfield definitely looking closer to the top than I expected. I still think it'll be the Red Bulls and Mercedes at the front, as incident involving Norris at turn 14 will be investigated after the session, or that's what FIA race control say. But yeah, I still expect it to be Mercedes and Red Bull cars in the front 4 positions, but the midfield, they are close enough. If one of the front 4 makes a mistake, they are close enough to nab a position. And with track position so important here in Barcelona, that would be a really great thing if one of the midfield cars could nab a position, or maybe even 2, from one of the top 4 cars. As many cars leaving the pits, as they're just showing there, Williams getting let go into the path of Leclerc, kind of. The Williams of Latifi. On track right now, we have Leclerc, Alonso, Russell, Tsunoda, Norris, Vettel, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen, Stroll, Schumacher, Latifi, Mazepin. On the track, the top 8, I was going to say, weren't on track. Now Lewis Hamilton comes out, but he's only probably going to do... he's probably going to improve his lap, but it's not going to be... It doesn't really need to be either that much of an improvement, because he will get through into Q2 anyway, as we have just under 2 minutes to go in the session. Hopefully no backing up in this chicane that affects anyone massively, as Yuki Tsunoda starts his final run. Tsunoda currently in 12th position, as Raikkonen now starts his final run. Can Raikkonen out-qualify teammate Antonio Giovinazzi? And can he have a good qualifying for once? Let's see. Getting knocked out in Q1, obviously, would not be a good qualifying. Would be another horrible qualifying for the Iceman. As all the rear end was a bit shaky through turn 2. That's the first mistake of what hopefully won't be a lap full of them. As he might catch, actually, as Raikkonen does a purple first sector, despite that slight error. So very quick track evolution I think we're seeing there. Front end looked great there through turn 5. Stroll has done a okay first sector. I say okay, it's still pretty good, but I'm saying okay really compared to what Raikkonen did, which was a very, very good first sector. As Raikkonen now in the middle sector is just under 1/10 of a second up on Antonio Giovinazzi. Raikkonen, though, does have a bit of traffic ahead of him, the Williams of Nicholas Latifi, I believe. As Lance Stroll, almost half a second up on the time he needs to get into the top 15, as Leclerc goes up to second. I'll update that in a moment as Latifi goes 18th. Raikkonen at the moment goes 15th, but I don't think that's going to be enough, because Lance Stroll will come to the line, and Lance Stroll surely will knock Kimi Raikkonen out of qualifying. He does. Lance Stroll goes up to P7. Giovinazzi currently 17th. Where will Giovinazzi go? P11. So Giovinazzi out-qualifies teammate Raikkonen yet again in 2021. Alonso now goes up to P11. As Vettel goes 12th, so Vettel is in. Norris currently in the drop zone, has to get this lap right. I think he will, as he comes to the line, Lando Norris, and goes P1 by almost 0.2 of a second. What a final lap by Lando Norris. And George Russell, he's currently in 16th. Russell comes to the line. P14, Giovinazzi rather, is 15th. Where is Yuki Tsunoda? I think Tsunoda is out in Q1. Just wait to see. Is Tsunoda still going? And no, Yuki Tsunoda. With Q1 now over, Yuki Tsunoda is out of qualifying in the first stage. So, let's just update the order. So, Lando Norris finishes up that session in P1 from Bottas in second. Charles Leclerc putting a good lap to go up into third for Ferrari. Then it's Verstappen fourth, Gasly fifth, Perez sixth, Sainz in seventh. Lance Stroll, great lap by him to get into the drop zone there, or get out of the drop zone and up into eighth position. And then it's Lewis Hamilton 9th, Daniel Ricciardo 10th, Esteban Ocon 11th, Fernando Alonso 12th, Sebastian Vettel 13th, Russell 14th, and then the Alfa Romeo of Antonio Giovinazzi in 15th, meaning that knocked out in Q1, Yuki Tsunoda, Kimi Raikkonen, Mick Schumacher, Nicholas Latifi, and Nikita Mazepin, as I was trying to say. So there you go. That is your finishing order for Q1, as Q2 will be underway in a couple minutes' time. Gotta say, Yuki Tsunoda, very disappointing season. Very disappointing season so far. He just doesn't seem to be able... I think it's a mental problem, really. He just doesn't seem to be able to hold it together to get, you know, the finishes and results he needs right now, which of course is a shame, because I mean, you can see Gasly right up there in 5th place in Q1. There's no doubt that Pierre Gasly can do, or Yuki Tsunoda rather, can do a lot better because of where his teammate is putting the car. So yeah, very disappointing. Hopefully Yuki can improve some point this season. Just going to add another quick dotted line for, of course, qualifying 2. So, of course, here in qualifying 2, anyone below 11th spot, as you can see there, anyone below where, or in between the first dotted line and the second one, so currently in that zone you've got Ocon, Alonso, Vettel, Russell, Giovinazzi. If those 5 were to be there at the end of Q2, they would be knocked out and would qualify in the positions they ended up in, leaving us, of course, with the top 10 shootout for Q3. Yeah, that is the Q1 session done, and Q2 will be underway in just a moment. It's just seeing a replay. So yes, Tsunoda running wide on the exit of turn 12, kicking up gravel. That definitely cost him a lot of time. Crystal Racing saying Tsunoda is furious. I've actually seen something of interest that, well, Yuki Tsunoda is having a bit of trouble with his team in terms of, I guess, the working relationship. Basically, Yuki Tsunoda is very aggressive and emotional. And I think earlier, I don't know if it was earlier or yesterday, but they were telling him basically to calm down because he's just getting way too, I guess, OTT. So, yeah, I think that's why I say his problems seem to be at the minute mental or emotional with his performance. Just want to read out the super chat from Jim Smith again for another £5. Says that last chicane is a real parking lot, sir. Yeah. We've seen this in the past when you have a very slow corner right before the final point of release. To start your lap, you do get cars tending to slow up as much as possible. The only reason they do it is so they don't hit traffic ahead, but when they all have the same idea, that's what happens. They all end up meeting at the same place. But yeah, Q2 should be underway in a moment. Be interesting to see what the front drivers go for on tyre choice. surely the Mercedes and Red Bull teams are going to go for the mediums. Surely. It's such a good tyre to have around this track. More so, I would say, than the Portuguese Grand Prix track that we just raced out a week ago. So, surely, sense will be seen, and they will be running that tyre. Will be interesting as well to see what Ferrari do. Will they be able to get both cars in on that tyre? Because if they do, then that really will give them a massive advantage in the race tomorrow. Well, they'll be able to do a few more laps at least compared to the soft tyre runners around them in that midfield pack. As Q2 should be underway shortly, as some of the drivers are just making their way to the FIA weighbridge. And Verstappen getting ready to come out of the of his pit garage, I think, in just a moment. And yeah, Lando Norris was P1 in Q2. He's not going to maintain that, obviously, in well, by the end of qualifying 3. It's not going to happen. But given his speed yet again in that McLaren, he could end up with a 6th or a 7th. He really could. But yeah, Q2 has now officially started. I'll sync up the timer in about 40 seconds from now. But yeah, Q2, 15-minute session. And as I said, anyone in between the 2 dotted lines that you see on the left-hand side, if they are in there by the end of the session, then they will be out of the session, leaving us with only 10 cars in Q3 to shoot out, or to, drop the pants and see what they've got for pole position, as Christian Horner would say. But yeah, I'll sync up the timer in just a moment. No cars on track at the minute, so nothing really to tell you about what's going on the circuit. As I think, as I sync up the timer there you go. 14 minutes to go. Yeah, Valtteri Bottas, I think, and interestingly, Valtteri Bottas coming out on the soft compound tyre. Very interesting. And I'm sure Hamilton is on the soft as well. That is very, very interesting. I know we have the hardest compounds for this weekend's Grand Prix, but still, surely you'd want to start on the medium instead. So, yeah, that is a big surprise, I'll be honest. And Red Bull also opting for the soft tyre. Maybe it's because the difference between the soft and the medium is not enough, or is too big, sorry. For them to be able to get into the top 10. Maybe that's why. I don't know. As Lance Stroll is on an outlap as well. But I would at least, I'd at least be trying to get through on the mediums. But looks as though they're all going to go for that soft compound tyre. As Max Verstappen comes out of the pits, also on the soft compound tyre. Currently on track, we have the 2 Aston Martins, Gasly, the only remaining AlphaTauri, the 2 Red Bulls, the 2 Mercedes, and Lando Norris in the McLaren. As we've got Antonio Giovinazzi coming out in the Alfa Romeo. The only cars in the pits at the minute are the 2 Alpines, Russell, Ricciardo, and the 2 Ferraris of Leclerc and Sainz. As we should be getting the first, say, runs in Q2 in a few moments' time, to be honest. As still waiting they are with Daniel Ricciardo. So obviously they've got a plan with him about when they want to release him to try and give him the best possible release onto track. As Lewis Hamilton now starts his first run on the soft compound tyre. So let's see, in a more representative session, what Lewis Hamilton can do in comparison to rivals Bottas and Verstappen, as Bottas starts his first run of qualifying 2 as well. Hamilton through turn 1, 2, and 3 looks absolutely fine. The Mercedes treats that part of the track like it's zero problem at all, like it's a kink on a straight, as he does a 22.0 for the first sector. Bottas about a 10th quicker in the first sector. Gotta say, Bottas has been very quick in the first sector around this track, as Hamilton now through turn 7 and 8 And let's not forget as well, Valtteri is pretty good around here in qualifying. I remember in qualifying Hamilton here by half a second back in 2019. So very good here he is. Hamilton, running a tad wide on the exit of turn 10. That won't help, as Bottas is still about a tenth to a tenth and a half up on Hamilton after the first two sectors. So Bottas so far in Q2 ahead, as Hamilton now through the final chicane. Car looks absolutely nailed through there. Now through the final corner to the line, and it'll be a 1 minute 17.6 for Lewis Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas will come to the line, and he should go quickest with this, and he does by almost 2.5 tenths of a second. So Valtteri Bottas is currently in P1 from Lewis Hamilton in second position, as Lance Stroll is going to be the next, or one of the next drivers to cross the line, as Stroll is now into the final sector. Sergio Perez goes up to third place in the Red Bull, almost 7 tenths down, as Gasly goes ahead of him. Gasly there showing some good speed. Lance Stroll comes to the line, and Lance Stroll goes third. What a lap that is by Stroll, as now we've got Lando Norris on a lap. Norris comes to the line. He now goes up to third position ahead of Stroll. Max Verstappen will come to the line and go quicker by almost half a second. 0.478 of a second. Max Verstappen currently in P1, fastest in all three sectors. What a lap. I know it's Q2, but that is a marker firmly laid down to the rest. Max Verstappen into P1 by almost half a second. Where has that come from? He was 3 tenths quicker in the final sector alone. Wow, what a lap by Max Verstappen. So let me just quickly update that. Verstappen up to P1 ahead of Bottas, second Hamilton, third, then Norris, Stroll, and then Gasly in 6th place from Perez in 7th. And then you've got Sebastian Vettel at the moment in 8th place. And then Antonio Giovinazzi in 9th. Everyone else so far has not set a lap. Saying that, now the Alpines are on a lap, as Ocon a quarter of a second down on Verstappen after just the first sector. And now Alonso, decent first sector for him as well, as Ocon now into turns 7 and 8. Be interesting to see now in Q2, where Alpine have really got to push as hard as possible, obviously, to try and get both cars into Q3. It'll be interesting to see what the legitimate pace is now, as Ocon about half a second down on Verstappen after 2 sectors. Pretty good lap so far. Alonso, though, quicker by about half a tenth on Ocon after the first 2 sectors. Alpine, though, looking quick. Looking very quick. Saying that, though, Ferrari are also on their laps, and they look pretty quick too, as Esteban Ocon will come to the line, and Ocon goes up to P7 in the Alpine. Fernando Alonso goes up to 5th place. What a lap for Fernando Alonso. Carlos Sainz now goes up to 5th. Let me just update that in a moment. Charles Leclerc now goes 6th. So it's a Ferrari 3rd row, but still behind Lando Norris, who is a tenth and a half quicker at the moment compared to the 2 Ferraris ahead. Let me just update it quickly. So you've got Carlos Sainz in 5th place. Charles Leclerc is in 6th position, and then Fernando Alonso is in 7th. What a lap by Alonso. That's exactly what he needed. Then it's Stroll 8th, Gasly 9th, and Daniel Ricciardo for the moment just sneaking into the top 10 by 4 thousandths of a second. What a close run thing that is. Also, Perez in the drop zone. He's got 300ths of a second down on Ricciardo. Vettel, 400ths of a second down on Ricciardo. also in the drop zone. Giovinazzi has done a lap, but he was on the medium compound, so I'm sure he can go quicker than that. Can Antonio Giovinazzi. Let me just move that picture a bit more to the right. But yeah, with just under 6 minutes to go, it's currently Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Norris, Sainz, Leclerc, Alonso, Stroll, Gasly, Ricciardo. And in the drop zone, needing desperately to get out, Esteban Ocon, Sergio Perez especially. He cannot afford to be down in 12th place. Sebastian Vettel 13th, Antonio Giovinazzi 14th, and George Russell in 15th. Russell, though, has not set a lap. He is, though, currently on an out lap. Will be intriguing to see what he can do. In the Williams, let me just quickly read the chat. Rory Keegan says Stroll has a pair of big ones, most underrated guy out there. Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, I used to be a big critic of Stroll a few years ago, but I think this season he's been really, really good, and I think been one of the most underrated drivers of the season so far. He was especially in Imola. What a performance that was in qualifying and race. And so far, if he was to get 8th in qualifying, I mean, of course, we've still got Q3 to come after the 5 minutes of Q2 remaining. But if he qualified in 8th place, that would be a stunning drive, because that car's not as quick as he's made it look so far. As Russell now starts his first flying lap of Q2, let's see what he can do. The first sector is 3 tenths down, about 3.5 tenths down on Max Verstappen. Not too bad. And now into turn 5. Hits the apex. Absolutely lovely. Slight oversteer on exit. Into turn 7 and 8. Car looks absolutely fine through there. No mistakes at all. Maximising absolutely everything. Now flat through turn 9. And let's see what his middle sector time is like. Well, compared to Ricciardo, he's 8.5 tenths down. So he's not going to be getting anywhere near Ocon, Perez, Vettel in 11th, 12th, 13th. He will get ahead of Giovinazzi probably. But Giovinazzi will go out again on a set of soft tyres. So Russell will do well not to be in 15th place, to be honest, as Russell will come to the line and stay or go up to 14th, I think. Yes, he does. George Russell, 14th, but I expect that to change around very quickly. As with 3.5 minutes to go, now we've got cars on track, the 2 Ferraris, the 2, we've got the 2 Alpines, I think, shortly. Gasly, Stroll, Sebastian Vettel. And basically everyone coming back out onto the circuit with, yeah, just about 3 minutes left in this session. QB in the chat saying maybe Gasly should go to Alpine. I do think that is a future move that is on the cards, very much on the cards. But because of Esteban Ocon's performance so far this season, that's kind of upsetting things in terms of that move being made. But let's say Ocon finishes the season really poorly and Alonso hammers him, which, based on the season so far, you'd have to say that's probably not going to happen. Yeah, if Ocon, though, ends the season poorly, say in the second half of the season, I do think Pierre Gasly will be going to Alpine because, you know, French team, he's the best French driver. He's the first French driver since Olivier Panis a quarter of a century ago to win a race. In terms of a PR dream, it's exactly what you would want if you're Alpine. And, you know, a Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly lineup is a pretty tasty one, especially if the car's good. As 2 minutes to go, we now Charles Leclerc starting his final lap in qualifying 2. He should get through, but he is only a tenth and a half, I think, at most, ahead of the drop zone. So he can't afford to be complacent because track evolution is, again, quite big here. And he could easily fall foul of that cut-off zone if he doesn't put in a good enough lap. As Pierre Gasly also starts his lap. Leclerc has not improved his first sector, but he's only just off in the first sector compared to what he did from earlier. So, and Carlos Sainz also does a a non-improved first sector, but I'm sure it was very close to his personal best first sector in the first sector, as Carlos Sainz now comes from through turn 9. Leclerc, after 2 sectors, has not improved his time at all so far. So Leclerc and Sainz as well, just not improving. I mean, we'll see with the other drivers whether they can improve. If all the drivers can't improve, then clearly track condition is not very good, as there's a Mercedes basically parked on the inside of turn 13, trying to stay out of the way of other cars, as Charles Leclerc will round the final corner, and I'm not sure he'll improve this lap time. He does actually, goes up to 5th, but where will Carlos Sainz go? He's right behind him. Carlos Sainz actually goes up to 4th place. So Sainz 4th, Norris 5th, Leclerc 6th. Pierre Gasly comes to the line, stays in 9th place, does not improve his lap time. Sebastian Vettel, 13th for Sebastian Vettel. Lance Stroll comes to the line, 8th place. Not really that many people improving, I have to say. Esteban Ocon, P7 for Esteban Ocon. That's very, very good by him. As Sergio Perez goes up to 5th now, pushing Pierre Gasly out of qualifying. And Daniel Ricciardo rounds, so he comes now into the final chicane. He's currently in 12th position, is Daniel Ricciardo. Can he knock Lance Stroll out? Yes, he can. He goes up to 8th position. Ricciardo into the next part of qualifying. What can Antonio Giovinazzi do? Will he knock Fernando Alonso out, or will he end up in the drop zone here at the end of Q2? Let's see. Comes to the line, and he only goes up 1 position into 14th place, as Lewis Hamilton also went up to 2nd. Oh no, now it's gone back. So Bottas is up to 2nd as they improved their lap times even further. So now instead of half a second off Verstappen, they're now about 1/4 of a second. Still, though, very intriguing it is going into Q3. But there you go. Q2 is over. And getting into the next part of qualifying is Max Verstappen, Valtteri Bottas, Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, Sergio Perez, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Daniel Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon, Fernando Alonso, and then knocked out in Q2, Lance Stroll, Pierre Gasly, Sebastian Vettel, Antonio Giovinazzi, and George Russell. I'd still say, though, for Aston Martin, that's pretty decent day's work, because I still don't think they have a car as quick as McLaren, Alpine, and Ferrari around a track like this. So that's still a pretty decent, if not good day, considering how good their car is. And Gasly, though, will be desperately disappointed to qualify 12th. That is by far his worst qualifying position of the season so far. But yeah, Q2 is now over, and Q3 will be getting underway very, very shortly. As I'll just update the graphics here for you guys. There you go. And if you are new to Formula 1, then yeah, Q3 is 12 minutes long. So we should get in 2 full runs here. And I cannot wait to see what Mercedes can do. Do they have the pace to respond to Max Verstappen's stunning speed, I've got to say, in Q2? We'll have to see in Q3. But guys, quickly, before Q3 gets underway, let me know in the chat, who do you think is going to get pole based on what we've seen so far? Will it be Verstappen, Bottas, or Hamilton? Not going to be anyone else. So let me know in the chat who you think it will be. And I'll try and read out a few before we get into any serious running here in the session. Astro Stevo says both Aston Martins out in Q2. Not too surprised they ain't looking good. Yeah, they're not looking that good. Well, I have to say, though, ain't looking that good in comparison, we do have to say, to last year. Last year was a very, very good season. This season, clearly, they don't have the car yet, even though I do think as the season goes on, they will improve. The more they understand their car, and, you know, so on and so forth. So I still think Aston Martin will have a decent season. Because let's remember, last season was a bit of an anomaly for the Racing Point team because of, you know, the car they had. So, yeah, I still think in qualifying today, 11th and 13th, that's good, considering where they, are really in the grid at the minute. They're not as quick as Ferrari. They're not as quick as McLaren. They're not as quick as Alpine. So they're, best of the rest ahead of Alfa Romeo, Williams, and Haas, which is where, at the minute, they are. I still think, though, they can easily score points from 11th and 13th. In fact, I'd probably say they will probably nick a point with, say, Lance Stroll, say, for 10th place, because he is very good in the race, and Aston Martin, pretty good on their tyres as well, as was seen in the Grand Prix last weekend, where Stroll went a long way on soft tyres into the race. So the Aston Martin pretty good on its tyres. So look out for them tomorrow, because I think they will be definitely featuring in the top 10. Let me look at the chat quick to see what you guys have to say. I think most of you saying Max Verstappen. It looks as though most of you have gone for Verstappen. There's a couple Hamilton ones in there, but so far it looks as though you're going for Max Verstappen. But guys, just a reminder again, I will be live later on for the race preview at 6 p.m. UK time, which is in, 3 hours from now. And as well, I will be live tomorrow for the race watch along at the same time. So don't forget again to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my homepage and do it there. Hit the notifications bell. Don't forget as well to smash a like button and share this video everywhere you can. And remember, we are very close as well to 10,000 subs. So, hopefully sometime soon we will hit that. Let me just go back to these pictures. And Q3 will be underway in just a moment. Noah asks, why does F1 rate Vettel? Well, 4 world championships. I think that's why F1 rates him. And he is still a very good driver. I mean, he has dipped, without doubt, in the last 2-3 years. He's not as good as he was in 2017, 2018. No doubt about it. And I think mentally, he's a bit shot for confidence compared to what he used to be like for confidence. I don't think he is quite the driver he was, but he's still very good, without doubt. And if Ferrari last year had given him a car that was equal to Charles Leclerc when they clearly didn't, then Vettel still would have had probably a decent season, considering how bad the Ferrari car was last season. And, to be fair, if Vettel had made the move a year early to what is now Aston Martin, but was the Racing Point team last year, Vettel probably could have won a race last season. But of course, stayed at Ferrari, which of course at the time, I mean, hindsight is wonderful, but at the time, staying at Ferrari was the right decision, because no one knew Racing Point was going to turn into this, amazing team for last season. No one knew that was going to happen. But obviously joined the team thinking that they were going to continue some of that this season, but clearly that has not happened. As still waiting for the cars to come out onto the track. I don't know for sure if the session has started, but even if it has, there are no cars on track at the minute, so you're not missing out on anything at the minute, guys. But I am intrigued, especially to see the Mercedes response. They halved the gap in Q2 from 4, almost half a second, down to about 2.5 tenths, maybe just below that. Can they close the gap even more and maybe get pole still here in Spain? We'll see. I will say, if Max Verstappen gets pole, that is that's a crucial pole position, and secondly, that is a stunning pole position, because I still don't think Red Bull have a car that's as quick as the Mercedes around this circuit. I think evidence of that is Sergio Perez, because Perez is nowhere near. And I think Verstappen is really overperforming. As session is underway, I'll sync up the timer in just a moment, but just a reminder, the people in or competing in this session are Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, Sainz, Perez, Norris, Leclerc, Ricciardo, Ocon, and Alonso. Those are the 10 drivers in the session. And honestly, I think behind the top 3, it could end up being anything, to be quite frank. As there you go. 11 minutes left here in Q3 and in qualifying. Can Max Verstappen get pole position for the first time ever in his career at the Spanish Grand Prix? Of course, he won here in 2016 from 4th on the grid, but can he get pole position? Red Bull have not had pole here in 10 years. Will it be a sweet anniversary for the Red Bull team? We'll have to see, as Sainz, Perez, Norris, Leclerc, Ricciardo, Ocon now on track. The only cars in the pits are Alonso, and then the front 3 protagonists of Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton. As now the 2 Mercedes come out onto the circuit, and I'm sure they will soon be joined by... And yeah, here we go. Max Verstappen on track as well. So all 10 cars on the circuit with 10 minutes of qualifying action still to go. As the Mercedes and Red Bull are now into the first bit of their outlap through turn 1, 2, and 3. They probably will not be starting their lap for another couple minutes yet, because they will want to make sure they don't take, most importantly, too much out of their tyres. Because around a track like this, it is actually common where you're pushing very hard and you're very quick in the first 2 sectors, and even if you have a good car in the final sector, again, it is common here where you can actually run out of tyre life towards the end of the lap. Which I think, honestly, explains most of the time why drivers sometimes don't have a good final sector here, because the tyres have already gone from them pushing so hard. As Lando Norris starts his first run in Q3. He's had a great season so far, Lando Norris. Qualified in P7 in, I think, in Bahrain. P7 Imola, and then P7 in Portugal. Can he get even better than that? He's had a great season so far. Probably been my driver of the season, to be honest, so far. Let's see what he can do. Can he outperform the car yet again, as he has done a faster first sector as expected compared to the Ferraris? The Ferraris are quite a bit slower in that first sector. As now we come to, from Norris, the middle sector. He's got a 50.9 so far on this lap. Leclerc about a 1/10 of a second down on Lando Norris so far on this lap, as Norris will come through the final chicane now in the McLaren as Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton start their first runs of Q3. Lando Norris will come to the line, and Norris will, of course, go up to P1 on an 18.0, which is not great, as Leclerc proves that by going 0.3 of a second quicker. As Carlos Sainz now comes to line, and he goes P1 ahead of Charles Leclerc. So Sainz up to P1, of course, who've got plenty of other lap times to be set. Daniel Ricciardo now goes second. What a lap by Ricciardo in the McLaren. As Esteban, and Sergio Perez has spun into the gravel there briefly through turn 13, I believe. There's a bit of gravel kicked up as Lewis Hamilton now comes through, as Esteban Ocon has now gone up to P1. Lewis Hamilton now coming through the final chicane, now through the final corner. Can Hamilton go P1? Surely he will. He does on a 1 minute 16.7. What a lap that is. Now Max Verstappen comes to the line, and it's only P2 despite a purple final sector. What can Bottas do? He comes to the line, and it's only P3. Hamilton, for the moment, with one final run in Q3 to go, is on provisional pole position. Let me just update it. He is on provisional pole position for the moment, Lewis Hamilton, by 0.03 of a second, with Max Verstappen in second place. I told you, when it really matters most, Lewis Hamilton, very hard to predict against him. And he's just gone and put in an absolute stonker of a lap. Here's a replay of Sergio Perez. Turn 12, fine. And then turn 13, he simply has too wide of a turning point, clips the gravel, and spins to the old double right-hand, very quick, fast corners. Very poor there, I have to say, from Perez. Very poor mistake. And now puts himself under massive pressure to get his way up to where he should be, really, which is 4th place. Because at the minute, in 4th place is Esteban Ocon in the Alpine, I believe. It is. Ocon currently in 5th, with Carlos Sainz in 4th, sorry. Carlos Sainz is 5th, Ricciardo 6th, Charles Leclerc 7th, Norris 8th, and then Alonso 9th, and Sergio Perez in 10th. But at the minute, it is, and let me just get him on screen, it is Lewis. Actually, I don't have him actually at the minute on one of my pictures. I'll just have to leave it as it is. But Lewis Hamilton on pole for the moment. Still, though, one final run to go. And without doubt, Max Verstappen is close enough to still get pole position. Only 0.03 of a second separating Hamilton and Verstappen, with Bottas about a 1/10.5, let's say, off pole position. So he also could end up on pole yet, with 5 minutes of qualifying to go. Let me know, guys, in the chat. Do you still are sticking by your prediction of a Verstappen pole or Hamilton pole? Let me know. Going into this final run, who do you think gets pole? Does Hamilton stave off Max Verstappen? Or does Max Verstappen go on a mad one and get that pole, which would be a vital pole position for the Grand Prix tomorrow? And if he executed in the race tomorrow, would be a vital pole position, of course, for his championship if he was to go then and win the Grand Prix. Pole to win record here in Barcelona is pretty good, as you would expect. Last year, of course, pole position won the race. Pole position also won the race in 2018, 2017, 2015, 2014, 2012, 2010, 2009, 2008, 2007. You see my point. Pole position at this track is basically 75% there in terms of the job of winning the race. It's not quite as important as Monaco, where if you get pole at Monaco, you've basically done 85-90% of the job there. But here in Spain, if you're on pole, it's pretty hard to stop you. And that's why this pole position that's going to be contested over very soon is such an important one for the championship. And yeah, well, I think we have to mention Ocon, P4. If he qualified there, that would be probably one of the drives of the day. Ahead of both Ferraris, both McLarens. He's almost 1 full second ahead of his teammate Alonso, who is down in 9th place. I'm sure Alonso can do a lot better of a lap than that. Also Norris, almost 0.4 of a second slower than Daniel Ricciardo. Got to say, Ricciardo, very good lap to get in between the two Ferraris, and he's only actually 0.02 of a second slower than Carlos Sainz, as the two Mercedes now join the racetrack to go for their final run. And here comes as well Max Verstappen and all the other cars as well, as they all join the party for the final 2.5 minutes. And what we're looking out for here really is Hamilton versus Verstappen versus Bottas, and also to see what Perez, and I think as well what Alonso can do in this final run of the session, as they're all going pretty slowly at the minute with just 2 minutes to go until they have to start their lap, as the Red Bull is going side by side. And yeah, F1 on their out laps. So Mercedes, they will lead the way. They will start the laps. And we'll get to see what they can do first, which I think from a drama point of view will be pretty good. Obviously to wait until Max Verstappen. If Verstappen is the final person to do his lap, it'd be great to see what he can come up with. As he's basically at the minute, Max Verstappen, he's trying to pass. Let me go on to this picture of Verstappen. He's trying at the minute to pass some cars to get not too far away from the Mercs, I think, ahead of him. And now he has overtaken all the cars in between himself and the Mercedes car. So now I think he'll now start to back up. Smart idea from Verstappen. He doesn't want to be, meeting the circuit at any point a bit far behind these Mercedes, as Lewis Hamilton now starts his final run here in qualifying 3. Can Lewis Hamilton get pole position? Can he keep it? As he comes through turn 1, turn 2, car looks fine through there. We'll see what his first sector time is in just a moment. As Hamilton now up to the first sector time beam. Hamilton 0.010 of a second up on his previous first sector time. Bottas has not improved his first sector. Max Verstappen has also not improved his first sector. Hamilton has. Is Hamilton yet again providing clutch driving for yet another critical pole position? We'll see as the lap unfolds, as Hamilton now comes to the middle sector, and Hamilton, no, has not done a good mid-sector. 0.2 of a second down on his previous best. Bottas also 0.2 down. What can Max Verstappen do? Verstappen 0.1 down and also not improving, so he's going to come down to the final sectors, I'm afraid, as Lewis Hamilton, loses the rear end, an absolute treat on the exit of the chicane, comes to the line, does not improve his time, for the moment is in P1. Now here comes Valtteri Bottas as Ricciardo and Norris stay 6th and 8th. Bottas stays in 3rd. Max Verstappen comes to the line and stays in 2nd place. How anticlimactic that was. Hamilton is on pole position as Sergio Perez you now come to the line. Where will Perez qualify? P7 only. What a shocker from Sergio Perez. Charles Leclerc goes up to 4th. What a great lap by Charles Leclerc. And Alonso we're just waiting for. And Alonso has ended up qualifying in 10th place. So, at the end of qualifying, it is Lewis Hamilton with his 100th pole position in Formula 1 from Max Verstappen 2nd, Valtteri Bottas 3rd. And then in 4th place, it is Charles Leclerc. 5th is Esteban Ocon. 6th is Carlos Sainz. 7th, Ricciardo. Sergio Perez has ended up in 8th place. That is very disappointing. Very, very disappointing. Lando Norris 9th. Norris will be disappointed to be out-qualified for the 3rd time this season by Ricciardo, even though it doesn't feel like he has been out-qualified that many times. As let me just update it quickly. So, Perez up to 8th, and then Norris in 9th, and then in 10th place is Fernando Alonso. But again, Hamilton on pole for the Spanish Grand Prix, and that is, like I said a moment ago, getting pole at this circuit. That's most of the job done. Just got to get the start nailed tomorrow, and Hamilton should win the race tomorrow. Verstappen, though, without doubt, has a chance. If he can get a better start than Hamilton, he does have the straight line speed compared to Mercedes to get the job done down into turn 1, and we know he is great on first laps. So it's going to be great to see what happens at the start tomorrow. Also, Valtteri Bottas, he'll play a certain factor in the race result. And then the fight for, really, best of the rest, and Perez sadly included in that, is between Leclerc, Ocon, Sainz, Ricciardo, Perez, Norris, Alonso, then probably the 2 Aston Martins and Gasly as well. But great qualifying again by Charles Leclerc. That's his 3rd, 4th place finish in qualifying this season. Got a 4th place finish in Bahrain, got it in Imola. Portugal had a poor qualifying and qualified 8th, but here, again, P4. Esteban Ocon, P5. What a drive from the Frenchman. I'd say Ocon probably one of the drivers of the day yet again. And then Sainz in 6th. Sainz will be disappointed not to get into 5th place. Ricciardo will be very happy. Perez will be feeling like shit. Norris will be 9th. And Alonso will probably be not feeling that great either in 10th place. But at least Alonso got into Q3. So there you go, guys. Qualifying is over. Kenrick says, thank you for the commentary. Well, thank you very much for watching the stream. Let me read a couple final comments and then we'll get to, I think, the end of the stream. Because again, I'm going to be live in about 3 hours from now to do a race preview. So guys, don't forget to come along to that. And again, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell for that later on. Thank you so much for the stream. Have a great day, says Jim Smith. Let me see other comments. Everyone just, I think, cheering Lewis Hamilton on. Astro Stevo, will there be a quality review in an hour or so, chats? Well, I think I just said, or I think you probably just heard it now. Because I think you put that comment before I said. But yeah, race preview in, 2 hours and 45 minutes from now. By the way, thank you to Crystal Racing, saying, great work again. Wookie also saying, epic job, man. Thank you very much, and I really, really do appreciate it. But I think we'll now basically come to the end of the stream. Thank you guys for tuning in to qualifying here today for the 2021 Spanish Grand Prix. And again, I'll be live later for the race preview and live tomorrow. Remember this, 1:30 p.m. UK time, I will be live for the race for the 2021 Spanish Grand Prix. And Nib, of course, will be there with me to commentate on the Grand Prix. So don't forget to come along to that. And don't forget as well to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, because we will be doing a watch along for every qualifying race this season. So yeah, bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my homepage and do it there, and hit the notifications bell. Also, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And as well, when it comes to the Discord server, don't forget to join that as well, because it is actually a better notification system as long as you are active on Discord. It is a better notification system. It is Discord for like videos and streams. So yeah, don't forget to join us on Discord over there. And also very frequent community, I would say, our Discord server. Lots of debates, lots of chat, and we have almost 500 people there. So if you want to join it for that, then make sure to do so. Again, link below in the description. But guys, until my race preview later and the race watch along tomorrow, it's been me, Chazza HD.